If you're like me, most of your life you've heard people say the expression, "Oh, that's just how I am." When you've questioned them about a habit they have or a preference that they show, they shrug and smile and say, "Oh, that's just how I am." But for many years, I've doubted that this is the case, and now I'm certain. Unless that person has gone through a journey of self-discovery and self-inquiry and have assessed their behaviors and their habits and understood exactly why they do what they do, then that person is not just like that. That is not just how they are. That is how that they have been programmed to be. This is how the world that they have lived in, the pressures that life has imposed upon them, has shaped them into. Many of these things are not conscious, and if the person were being honest, many of these things are not preferred. But instead of examining them and deciding, this might be difficult for me to change, but I would like to, and let me start a journey of change, instead, they will share this narrative, a very throwaway narrative of this is just how I am. And I can see why that would be useful. It helps to get the person who's being inquisitive off your back. I could see myself using that even if someone is being nosy. But the problem is that it's not just a throwaway narrative that the person uses while they keep on trying to benefit or better themselves in the background. No, they actually buy into this. They actually say, "Oh, this is how I am. This is how I'll always be. I've always been this way." Indeed, years ago, before I knew better, I actually had more in-depth discussions with people, and they get quite annoyed and will say, "No, I've always been this way." And I would say, well, perhaps, things could be different. If this makes you unhappy or you feel like it's not optimal, you could do something to change. Maybe not overnight, but you could. And people have point blank said to me, "I don't believe that. This is how it's been, and this is how it'll be." I was stressed by this, so I pressed them. I said, "Forever? Like, till you die?" And they said, "Yes, it will be this way until I die." I still remember this conversation. And after that, I didn't press people to that degree. Because there was nothing to say. The point was, I did not agree with what they had said. Because even if it were true that it never would change, that wasn't the stance to take. That wasn't the attitude to have before one had even applied oneself. From certain vantage points in life, it can appear that nothing can be done. But the fact is, when one starts walking on the path, areas of inquiry pop up that you never thought about before. You meet people, amazing, strange people, who give you the answers you seek. You yourself change as you acquire more information and open yourself up to the idea of possibility. And then you start to see things that were once hidden from you. Ideas come forth because you are now the person who can receive the ideas. Whereas in the past, you were the person who said there could never be a solution to the problem. We can change. We can change the circumstances of our lives. We can change ourselves. We don't have to buy into the narrative that things are this way and will always be this way. And I think the only reason that people buy into that narrative is because they're afraid that perhaps if they have hope, it will be dashed. And as we all know, that can be far more painful. than just living with limitation. But we are human. We live a life of risk, death-defying acts. Every day could be our last. And so the way we should take this is with more play, is with more adventure, is with more hope that maybe something can change. Maybe not all the things, maybe not in the way that we envision, but a little here, a little there. We need to keep our minds open and not closed off. That is the first step. There's no need to say, this is just how I am. It just isn't true. Open your mind up to the fact that you could be more. You may surprise yourself.